today we have a fun video for you because we're going to go over the red flags of job scams and help you learn what to look out for and how you can avoid being scammed online. Because as we know, the job market is in shambles, and especially with the the rise of remote work, it makes it a lot easier for people to create these scams. So we want to help you guys avoid this and not be scammed. And we are both talking from experience. I was personally scammed in 2018, and I know Adonis had to sign weird contracts and things. So we're going to go through all of that in this video today.
Yeah, and great points there with the job market. Because of the way that it is, it's very, very easy to get caught up and, sucked into the tractor beam of bad actors, right? People out there are very desperate, so they create businesses that are not real businesses. They're scams and schemes designed to trick you into thinking that you're applying to something legit, and then they take your money. So we're going to go into some red flags, as Jess was saying. So Jess, would you want to kind of go over odd interview techniques and practices? I think that might be a good place to start. What is your experience with this, and how would you advise somebody in terms of like when to recognize when an interview is going weird, or like the interview structure or practice of hiring just doesn't make sense?
Yeah, so this actually happened to me personally. It was in 2018 when I first learned about the world of remote work in 2016, and I was like super desperate to get an online job. And this was obviously before the pandemic, so it was way less popular. And I got so I was like applying to like remote jobs and stuff, which were much harder to find and way more niche. And then I got this email being like, hey, we're going to pay you like $18 an hour, which was like so high at the time because, I was like, oh my God, most jobs were offering like $8 an hour, $5 an hour. It was really hard to get remote jobs that paid. And it was like data entry. And they like listed all these things in the email, and it sounded like super good. And then they said like, yeah, the interview is going to take place on Google Meet. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like thinking it's like normal, but it ended up being like Google Chat, and it was literally just a chat interview, like a messenger message. And they refused to go on camera, which is obviously like a humongous red flag. But at the time I was just like super desperate, so excited. Oh my God, amazing pay. They're going to pay for all my equipment. They're going to like do this. Like, okay. And I didn't know much about the world of remote work. So I'm like, I guess like in remote work, it's like normal to just do like a messenger interview. So big red flag. If they refuse to get on camera or the interview is not on camera, that is like immediately they're scamming you, because any boss is going to want to like meet you face to face, even if it's virtual.
Facts. Yeah. And that's, I understand, because we're remote now, like going to the office and needing to interview in person is no longer a requirement oftentimes, especially for remote workers. But to not even show your face, to not even like, reveal who you are and like want to have at least some semblance of human to human communication. Yeah, it's probably not a good thing to see there. Some other odd interviews and practices could be along the lines of when the bar is set extremely low for a position. This is a really important one to identify. People often feel very flattered by these types of interviews, right? It's like, oh, I looked at your profile and you seem like the absolute perfect person for the job. We actually don't really have many questions for you at all in terms of whether or not you're qualified. We wanted to know if you're interested in working for blah, 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 blah. And an offer is made to you without really any objectionable questions, really without any skepticism whatsoever. No prodding or prying, trying to see if like you created a fake profile or if anything you said was fictitious. Companies that are real, companies that actually care about, exceeding and excelling in the world, which pretty much all the real ones do, right? They're not going to be just opening up the pearly gates to you, right? There should be a small amount of challenge at least, right? There should be some objections about hiring you. And a lot of people see this as bad in the marketplace. Like, oh, why are they so skeptical about me? Well, because in the real world, scams go both ways. Sometimes employees and contractors have this persona that they push online, and in reality, maybe it's not who they really are. right? Maybe working with them is going to be a very different experience. So any company that does not question you whatsoever about who you are, what you're all about, why they should hire you, and your typical interview rigmarole, to the extent of like, hey, we want to know who you are and who we're going to be paying, because we're going to be spending a really, really good amount of money on you to help us accomplish XYZ goals. You gotta question that. You cannot be suckered into this flattery of like, hey, you're the best. We can see based off of your profile that you're great. We want to bring you on for this position, and that's it, right? There's got to be some level of questioning. If it's too easy, it's too good. It's probably too easy to be true, too good to be true.
Absolutely. And most people are not maximizing their profiles the way they should. So it's already sketchy, because even me, like, I know all the rules and I'm in digital marketing and I do this, but I'm always lazy to do it for myself. So it's like, yeah, my profile is pretty good and I do post content and things, but I'm not posting every single accomplishment, every single reference, every single testimonial. So if someone's coming to my profile and saying like, oh, we saw from your profile that you're amazing, it's kind of sketchy, because it's like, oh, how did you see that? Like, I posted some content, I posted some things, but it's not like you knew like every accomplishment I've made, everything. So unless you really are like maximizing your profile, which technically we all should be doing, but I know in the real world we don't, it should already be a red flag. Like, okay, this person saw my profile, but how much is actually on my profile that made them think like, okay, you're immediately in for this job, without those deeper questions. Like, it's quite possible a recruiter comes to your profile, sees stuff, and then puts you in a real interview, and that's great, and that's what we want. But if they're like, yeah, immediately, yes, no questions asked, like you're the best just from your LinkedIn profile, huge red flag, because what's on your profile that showed them that.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, great points. And I think we're ready to move on to the second point, which is job description warnings. Many people, I think it's fair to say this, you probably agree, Jess, many people don't really read the job description fully. They kind of see the title of the role that they do, and there really isn't a lot of deep study for people who are in desperate situations and trying to get the number of applications up. There's a pressure of like, I got to send out 50 applications a day. And like, if I spend time reading through each job description, it's not going to happen. Right. So what do you have to say for those types of people, Jess? And I know you and I have had our backs against the wall like that before, of like looking for a position, wanting to make it sooner rather than later, and wanting to send more applications at a time. What advice would you give for people to avoid getting scammed that way?
Yeah, so like for the data entry job position, that was a scam. One of the things of the job, like, it should have known that the amount of money was too high and the things that they were offering were too high for the type of job that it is. So like, if it really was data entry, which like in 2018 it's more believable, but now like very little data entry jobs exist because machines do it for you, and AI is better at it, because you could be so repetitive and not make any mistakes. So if it's something so basic as like, oh, you're just going to be entering some information into an Excel sheet all day, and we're paying $25 an hour, $30 an hour, full pension, full benefits, we're going to pay for your college tuition, we're going to pay for your computer, like, no, why? So you have to look at that in the job description. Like, is the compensation matching the actual thing, or does it really sound too good to be true? I get a lot of text message scams too that's like, oh, new job open, it pays $200 a day and you get paid daily. Like, no person in the world is paying someone daily, because the amount of like paperwork and accounting and this and that you would need to like be paying out daily is so frustrating, unless you're like a day trader or something. So to me, it's like those things in the job description. If the compensation is way too high for the type of work it's saying, if they're offering too many good benefits in the job description, like, oh, we're going to pay for all of this stuff, why? And if also, like, depending on what company they're saying, because sometimes scams like take a real company that is hiring, but they like fake it, which we'll get into a bit later. So if they're saying like, oh yeah, like we're from Google or we're from Microsoft, and then the job description is in broken English, it's very, very suspicious, because obviously, like, there's nothing, I speak multiple languages, I have an accent, I don't spell everything, so it's nothing against that. But it's like, obviously, if I'm coming from an American company or Canadian company, why would the job description have like words that are misspelled, or a sentence that just doesn't make sense, like it's not grammatically correct? So those types of things in the description should raise a lot of red flags for you.
Yeah, those are good points. Yeah, those are for sure red flags to look out for. I think some additional ones that you kind of want to keep in your back pocket for when you're looking for something very specific. Most of the people that I talk to don't want to just work anywhere. They want to work at a place that respects their time, respects the amount of hours they're putting into their job. So there's ways of decoding job descriptions. If you really read them and you understand what they're saying, it's actually kind of funny, like how oftentimes when certain words are used in job descriptions, how the company ends up being a certain way. Like for example, the companies that claim that you're a family. This is one of my favorites, you know, because like when you read that in the job description, it's like, okay, that sounds really, really nice. And a lot of people these days, you know, crave the family environment because it's very much missing in America. You know, the family is very scattered these days. A lot of people come from broken homes. A lot of people miss or don't have really good relationships with their family. So the work environment kind of becomes their family. But when you have a really high emphasis on this, there's a warning that you have to heed as well, and that is sometimes the work-life balance is a little off. It's a little off kilter. Another you know phrase to look out for that kind of entails the same thing is like, you know, you get unlimited time off, you know, unlimited PTO. Like a lot of people know this, of course, but it's a good reminder. Unlimited PTO probably means you're going to be working more than everybody else in the world because, you know, they'll kind of hang that over you like, oh, you have unlimited PTO, but you really don't. Nobody really has unlimited PTO, for being real, right? Like nobody's going to pay you XYZ amount of money to just be off all the time, right? This is really kind of leveraged for the workaholic or somebody who is really gullible enough to believe that PTO is truly unlimited. Other things to look out for, just a couple more that are short to kind of point out. Fast paced usually means understaffed. So usually, you know, that tends to be true. It's not true in every case, but for the most part, that kind of verbiage used in an ad is like fast paced, meaning like there's so much work that, you know, you really most of the time can't handle it, especially if you're in a small business. There are some fast paced larger organizations that have a very specific process, but just be aware of that for like the startups and the mid-sized brands. And then additionally, one of the things that you might want to look out for is more so under the guise of I guess it's escaping my mind. I'll come back to it later. What I want to get into as well, because this is another point of contention for people that are looking for jobs, is the commission-based jobs. And this is also kind of goes into that, the segues really kind of perfectly into what we're talking about, right? With job descriptions. Jess, you've seen this, you know, having been in your industry and profession. What do you have to say regarding like commissions, you know, like what you see in the job market with that kind of stuff, and how do people leverage that from what you've seen to take advantage of folks?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. So sometimes commission jobs are like real, but it just could be a scam because it's very hard to sell it. It's very hard to make money. So it's like, okay, yeah, like, oh, like this actually literally happened to my boyfriend. So he was trying to look for a job online and he got like this travel agent job, but it really was just a pyramid scheme. So basically they were like, okay, so we're going to train you for the first 2 weeks for free, but you have to like sign up for this thing and sign up for that thing and pay for this thing. And then you had to pay like a monthly fee. Every month was like $75 a month or something. And then you only got paid in commission. So in the end, it's like, okay, it was a real job and like technically you could make money off of it, but it was really more of a pyramid because the way you were making money wasn't actually like finding clients to like book travel. It was really about finding other people to recruit into this thing who were paying the monthly fees because you were getting a commission of their monthly fee more so than you were getting. And like, even then there were so many like conditions for how you got paid. So if he actually did find a client who really did want him to book travel, it's like, okay, well, they had to have booked like a minimum of $2,000 in tickets, and then they had to stay for a minimum of 7 days, and then they had to give like a 5-star review, and then if all of that worked out, then you would get paid your commission. So it's like, okay, technically real, but what are the chances that you're actually going to do all this? And even if you are like the best salesperson in the world, it's very hard to do that consistently, and the control is not on you because you're like, oh, now this person has to leave a review, now this person has to stay the full 7 days, now this person can't change hotels. So that's completely out of your control. So it just becomes a scam in that way, because it's like, how are you going to make money off of this? So that is a big thing. And commission only jobs tend to be MLMs and pyramid schemes. And you can make money in an MLM. Lots of people do. And not all MLMs are like MLMs are illegal, but it is just like very, very tough. So unless you are like a stay-at-home mom who's really bored and you have all the money in the world and you're just looking for something fun to do, like, okay, cool, get involved in an MLM. But otherwise, you end up just losing a lot, and you have to invest so much that it's like, take that money and build a proper business. Take that money, invest it in the stock market, because you're going to end up spending like $5,000 on like products and this and that and this website that they force you to use. In the end, you could have just used that money for something else.
Exactly. Yep. No, I definitely agree with everything that you said there. And I think, that actually kind of goes into the point that I forgot in our last segment, which was regarding job description warnings. I have to say, this whole scam of like, we're remote, but you have to live in a certain city. Like, we all know that a real remote job doesn't require you to live in one city or another. So, if you see this, just be aware, be forewarned that you may be coming into an office at some point, because why would they have you move to Toronto if the job is remote, right? Like, why does the city name have to be on the ad? It doesn't make any sense. So that's another thing to be warned about. But going back to your point of OTEs and commissions being kind of a scam as well. Certainly, anytime you have a company asking you to do things outside of convincing people to buy products and services, like for example, you have a closer, right? A closer role, but then the person is supposed to develop a pipeline completely on commission. Doesn't usually work out. Those are usually like, very, very difficult jobs to work. And surely there are people who work them and it can work out for people. But generally speaking, they're asking you to do something that should be paid. Marketing should always be a paid service, not something that you're handing out for free. And if you do hand it out for free, I mean, that's on you. But most people, you're going to put in a lot of work before there's any results seen. So for those younger job seekers out there who are like looking into sales and marketing, and I think that marketing should be a free thing that goes along with commission-based selling, that's definitely not the case. Additionally, you also got to be aware of really kind of ballooned projections when it comes to the OTE. I mean, you kind of touched a little bit on this earlier, Jess, but yeah, if the product or service is new to the market, it hasn't been tested, and they're projecting a ridiculously high OTE and putting that on you, that's not something you should just accept. There should be legitimate justification for why the OTE is going to be what it is. I mean, I really do feel like many business owners, especially more modern ones, will, kind of blurt out this crazy OTE. And how did they come to that, right? Was it they, put their finger on their tongue and held it in the air? It was like 460 OTE, right? Or was it like an actual analysis that was done with justification and data points to show this is why we believe that you're going to hit these metrics? So this often leads to really bad budgeting. If a company does things this way, if they're not very clear with you about how they believe you're going to hit your targets. And then on top of that, that usually leads to layoffs because of poorly managed budgets. So that leads us to funding appeals, which is a source of great scam and really just criminal activity, in my opinion, in terms of like what they're doing to people. Maybe you can elaborate on the funding appeal job posting, Jess, and what that means for people who are actually looking for work and then just kind of getting bamboozled by that whole process.
Yeah, for sure. So just to clarify, that's like someone that would send you an email asking to fund, like, oh, if you give me $1,000, you'll get like 2% of my business or whatever. Like that's what you mean. Okay. So just want to make that clear for our audience. So yeah, I mean, first of all, that it depends like what you want, because that's not really a job. Like if you want to be an angel investor, then that's great. Then do that. But if you're like, oh no, I need like a steady salary and I need income and stuff, that like right away, like funding is not what you're looking for, because there's a large risk involved and you're not really supposed to pay to work, right? So like that's also a big red flag scam thing. If they're asking you for any money up front, it's probably a scam, because in like regular, real conventional jobs, whether they're remote or in office, you're never being asked to pay to work. Like imagine you went into like Walmart or something, and they're like, oh yeah, you need to pay us $5 just to walk in the door. Then you need to pay $20 for your own uniform. And then once you have that, we'll let you go to the cash and make money. Like, super weird. It would never happen. So if it is a funding appeal, I mean, first of all, you have to ask yourself, is that something I'm interested in? And if it is, then you have to do a lot of background checks. You have to really go deep into the information. What is the company asking for? Why are they asking for that? Does it make sense? Like if they're saying, oh, give us $1,000, we'll give you 5% of our company. Like, who is making that deal? Like if you've watched Shark Tank for even 5 minutes, it's never going to happen. If you're getting 5% equity, 10% equity, you're looking at 50,000, 100,000, like more than that funding. So if it's something like, oh, I'll just give $1,000 and then, oh, I'm going to make $20,000 in 5 years. Like you would need to make sure that everything is in place. I would literally say, if that's the case, if you want to be an angel investor and you are interested and you did get this email and it's sparking your curiosity, get a lawyer. Immediately get a lawyer to look over this, because if you have the money to invest in these companies, you have to have the money for a lawyer. And the lawyer could tell you, like, does this make sense? What are the contracts? What are the terms? What are the deals? What are you getting out of it? How come they reach this? If they're saying, yeah, give me $1,000 and we'll give you 5% of your company, and in 5 years you're going to make 10 grand. Why do they think that? So those are the things that I would look out for. Like it might not be a scam, but most likely it is. Most likely you'll send them $1,000. They'll give you some like ChatGPT contract and you'll never see a return. There's not going to be a way to, find these people, track these people down. And a lot of times people will lie and say like, yeah, I'm located in the US, and they're not. And I know from experience, because I said I got scammed in 2018 and I went to the police and everything. And the police told me like, we want to help you, but if they're located outside of Canada, there's literally nothing we can do. And they were located in Nigeria, which like, I don't want to be like stereotypical, but that's just where they were at the time. And so they're like, it's completely out of our jurisdiction. So there's literally nothing we could do about it. So be careful when you invest in things, because if they're not located where you're living, even if you did have money for lawyers and police and everything, they can't do anything. They can't fly down to a different country and be like, give the money back. So
Sure. Yeah. And I think the kind of funding appeal I want to talk about as well, in conjunction with what you're talking about, Jess, is we're talking about a appeal from the company to an investor for funding that's going on behind the scenes that nobody else sees. And so what's going on in the job market is you see all of these jobs being posted by this one company that aren't being taken down. You're seeing, executive assistant roles pop up 10 times, like within a span of like 3 or 4 months. And for a fact that they're not hiring for those positions because they're not answering any of, the applications. You're getting a lot of complaints about like what's actually happening at this company. Are people actually getting hired here? You check the data, right? Like if you're working with us, you can check the data and you can see how many hires have been made over the last few years. And if you see that there's consistently postings, but the hirings do not match in terms of the amount of postings that are going out, there's a very good chance that those are fraudulent postings created to attract investors who might think or don't have the data to see that the company is not actually making those hires, and ends up paying them a good chunk of money because they think that the company is needing it for growth. So you got to be aware of those, and that it helps to be partnered with us for that sake of just knowing and understanding what a company's hiring habits have looked like. Now, the last thing that we'll talk about, and I'll kind of begin this conversation, is strange contracts, right? Jess started off by saying, yeah, I've signed some strange contracts. Yeah, when I first got started in sales, there was a company that I began working with that kind of showed some other red flags in the process, in terms of like, it was a very quick interview process. They were in love with me for no real reason other than I had gone to a specific sales training in school. And I had a natural capacity for making relationships and selling and doing the things that I currently do today. But it was all so easy. Everything just flew right by. Like the whole process was way too smooth. It didn't make a lot of sense the way that they questioned, like the questions they had for me weren't really questions. They were more like statements and an invitation to join a very large, it was a decently sized group. It was about 150 to 200 other people that had received this similar invitation, and none of them were actually currently working. So obviously this is a very unique situation, but what came about through that whole process was a contract that I was given, where in there was a clause in there about defamation, right? This is something that you have to be on the lookout for when you're new to sales, or even if you've been doing sales a long time. If you ever get something like this, definitely avoid it. Companies that are asking you not to say anything about the company for XYZ amount of time, should you be let go? It's like kind of like a defamation clause, right? And this is almost kind of like a self-admission of guilt, right? They're basically saying, we don't want you talking about us. We don't want you to say anything publicly about us. So we're going to have you sign here if you want to work here, right? So that should have been my red flag to say, nah, I think I'm going to pass on this one, because clearly like this clause wouldn't exist if y'all weren't doing something shady, right? But everything else about the company seemed so attractive that, of course, me being about the age of 22, 23 at the time, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this because it seemed to make sense at the time. So just be aware of contracts with weird verbiage in them. Companies that are working out of obscure places with very little labor laws, such as the Netherlands or places in Puerto Rico. It just really kind of depends, right? Like there's different places in the world that have different labor laws. So you want to be aware if you're going to be working internationally or somewhere where you have no familiarity with. Check what the labor laws are in those places, especially if you're getting the sense that a contract is a little bit strange, and or the scope of the job seems a little bit strange. So just wanted to put together like a real quick, hopefully it was quick. I don't know what the time is at the moment, but we wanted to put together a little summary of some things to look out for, especially for job seekers out there right now who might be a little bit on the more aggressive side right now due to not having anything. We wish you guys all the best, and we actually encourage you guys to come speak with us. As Jess said, there's ways of being able to detect these red flags and these warnings. We literally built this business for the purpose of helping people find the best opportunities for them. So by all means, visit us at jobstreamai.com. You can feel free to message either one of us. In all likelihood, as I always say in these videos, if you're watching this, it's probably because you've met one of us at least. So get in touch with us. We look forward to working with you, and we wish you a happy job search.
Yeah, stay safe out there. And if you have any questions about red flags, just send us an email. We're happy to, let you know. Thanks.
See you on the other side.